Well, this is the news that we're getting at the moment. Arunachal Pradesh verdict is out in the apex court. The apex court had decided to restore the Nabam Tuki Govt. It's a big setback for the BJP. The Supreme Court order has said that the governor to prepone the assembly session was illegal. It was illegal. The order of the governor to conduct the session, to remove the speaker and the chief minister, is quashed. So the political status has been restored in Arunachal Pradesh as of 15th of December 2015. So the verdict means that the Arunachal Pradesh political stability now will be in question because former Chief Minister Nabam Tuki's government has been restored. It's a big setback for the BJP government. Anusha joining us with more details. Over to you, Anusha.
Well, Divina, as you said, this is a big setback to the centre. Let me take you what Justice Keher, leading the 5-judge bench today, told in the Supreme Court. He said that the order of the governor dated 9/12/2015, which is 9th of December, in which he decided to prepone this assembly session, was violative of Article 163 and 164, which means the powers which have been given to the governor under the Constitution of India. And these actions of the governor are liable to be quashed, which means that the Supreme Court has said that the way in which the governor exercised his power in preponing the assembly session was illegal and violative of the Indian Constitution. The second point that the Supreme Court has said that the manner in which the governor conducted the session without the consent of the cabinet ministers and the council of ministers was violative and hence quashed. That means the move of the governor and that particular assembly to remove the chief minister, then chief minister Nabam Tuki, and also the speaker Nabam Rebia was illegal in law, and that has been quashed. And all the steps of the legislative assembly, all the further orders that they passed. Also, there was an order passed in which the dissident Congress MLAs were restored. That has also been quashed. Now, what this means, which Supreme Court has said in as many words, that the political status quo of Arunachal Pradesh as of 15 December 2015 has been restored. As of 15 December 2015, Nabam Tuki government was in power. However, going to the further interpretation of it, taking into account that the Congress MLAs had revolted and had in fact rebelled against the Chief Minister, he might have to do a floor test. However, the current government sworn in by the government stands nullified by the Supreme Court. This is a major setback, a major constitutional clarification which is coming in from the Supreme Court, that in what way and in what manner can the centre, through the governor, exercise the power. And this is a huge relief coming in for the Congress at this moment from the top court.
But also, Anusha, stay with us, because as the Supreme Court has quashed all orders given by the Arunachal Pradesh governor, now the legality of the current government has been questioned as well. So that means now it's the Nabam Tuki government which upholds the legal status. Anusha, if you can hear me, this means that... Yes,
I'm getting your audio. You're absolutely right. I mean, there is a matter of interpretation or inference here. I mean, it's very clear. The Supreme Court has said that the current government which stands, all the actions which happened after 15th of December are illegal, are unconstitutional, which means that the current government which was sworn in is illegal. Let me take you through what Justice Keher had earlier said during the hearing back in February. He had said that the Supreme Court has the power under the Bomai judgment of 1994 to turn the clock back, quote unquote, which means that if it finds that there was one single action, a constitutional action on the part of the executive, which started a chain of events, the court can step in and restore the clock back. And that's what the Supreme Court has done. Gone back to 15 December 2015 and said...
Manish Tiwari of the Congress Party, who is joining us right now. Mr. Tiwari, your first reaction on this big verdict by the Apex Court, which has restored Nabam Tuki government in Arunachal, a verdict that will also have a wide-spanning political impact.
Well, it's a victory for democracy. It's a slap on the face of the Narendra Modi government. It is a verdict against the dictatorial, fascist and undemocratic manner in which governments have been toppled. State governments have been toppled, opposition governments have been toppled by the state government, by the central government. So therefore, it's a huge victory for democracy. the Supreme Court has once again reaffirmed that undemocratic, fascist and Hitlerian tactics cannot succeed in a democratic polity. Rest we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to peruse the judgment and then give a more structured response to that.
He had said it was an attempt for a backdoor entry by the BJP government in the state, and now the apex court decision has certainly boosted the Nabam Tuki's government stand. But at this point of time, Manish Tiwari, what is the next step by the Congress party?
Well, I do not know at this point in time. The judgments just come in. Only the highlights of the judgment are available. The judgment would have to be perused. But in a sense, it is a victory for democracy. It is a verdict against the use of the misuse of the office of governor in order to topple opposition government.
But questions were also being raised about the infighting in the Congress party at that point of time. The repeat of what we also saw in Uttarakhand, where the rebel Congress camp tried to join hands with the opposition in the state then. Now, you believe now the precedent from this judgment will be set forward to prevent any sort of factioning? We'll try and connect with more voices on the story as the big verdict is coming in at this point of time. So here is what is more important right now to focus in, that the apex court has said that governor does not have the power to call a special session of the Legislative Assembly. Anusha, still with us. Anusha, take us through the major highlights of this verdict.
Navina, as we pointed out before, the Supreme Court has quashed all the actions of, which were taken on the 15th of December 2015. That means the governor did not have the power to call a special session of the Assembly. He also did not have any power pursuant to the articles of the Indian Constitution to remove the Speaker or to oust the sitting Chief Minister without consulting the Council of Ministers, which was mandatory. What the Supreme Court has also clarified that all the actions of the Assembly session stand nullified. The clock has been turned back, and the political status quo is now that of 15 December 2015. That means Nabam Tuki will be the Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh. However, taking into account there was already infighting in the Congress, as you were talking about, and there was rebellion, a floor test looks like the most plausible option. However, the new Chief Minister, who was sworn in by the government when the Supreme Court was hearing this entire case, now that Chief Minister holds no more constitutional authority, as the top court of the country has said that the new government sworn in has no legitimate constitutional basis. The clock has been turned back, Tuki has been restored. A floor test is the most likely option looking forward.
Fresh floor test is the likely option that we're looking at. Major takeaway from this verdict. We also have Rahul Kawal, the managing editor of India Today TVTN, who's joining us right now. Rahul, take us through now the big political tremor of sorts that we see from this Supreme Court verdict.
So, Devina, this is a very, very significant order. Significant because this is a big blow to the BJP government. This is the second time a decision taken by the cabinet has been struck down. First it happened in Uttarakhand, and now with the Supreme Court. Remember, this order has been held in abeyance for many weeks now, and the government has been very anxious. I know on good authority that several days senior officers have kept up through the night wondering what this order will be. This is a historic order because you've seen the Supreme Court revert get the Congress government back into power. Now the question is, what happens to the dissidents? Remember, more than 24 MLAs of the Congress rebelled. The BJP can say in its defense that we didn't topple this government. It happened because the Congress couldn't keep their flock together. When there is a floor test, will Nabam Tuki, who today is very happy, be able to prove his majority on the floor of the House? That is something that we saw Harish Rawat was able to do in Uttarakhand. He kept his flock together. He managed to get some independence on his side. So far, we've seen a new government in place. The previous Home Minister was running the government with the support of the BJP MLAs. Will Nabam Tuki be able to hold them together? That's the critical question. But the larger point, and that's the message that the Supreme Court has sent today, Devina, is that you can't mess with elected governments. You can't bring them down. You can't use your power to impose president's rule. This used to happen during the days of Indira Gandhi, and we thought that India had moved on, reached a new plane where these things were no longer acceptable. The last two decisions showed that suddenly toppling governments was back in fashion. This is a stinging blow to the BJP government, and hopefully the people in the cabinet who took this decision will learn that you cannot mess with elected governments. You want to form a government in a state, win the election. That's the only way to do it, not by toppling your opponents.
Also, Rahul, very interestingly, because you have the legislature versus the judiciary here, because the judiciary has decided to step in this particular case when
But
the
with
case
a lot of delay.
with a lot of delay.
This could
as
have
well.
happened a lot earlier. Remember,
Yes.
when the matter came to court is when, if they'd stepped in at that time, the alternative government would not have been formed. The judiciary also has been sleeping over this for a very, very long time. They've been very guarded also because of the significance. This is the singular biggest blow to the Modi government from the Supreme Court. There has been a series of run-ins, and that's one of the reasons why the government's been very, very anxious. We've seen the Chief Justice speak out publicly. So this has been building up, but this is the one big blow which is going to hit the government very, very hard.
Okay, Rahul, we're getting some reactions. I'm told let's go across to the reactions coming in at this time.
All the notification of 9th December issued by the governor, and also has restored status quo ante as on 15th December. That is when Nabam Tuki was the chief minister. It's a great day for Indian democracy and a great slap on the BJP. Nobody ever thought that any ruling party could go to this extent to murder democracy in this country. The rule of law had been torn to shreds. Constitutional provisions were given a go-by, and it seemed as if the reign of the governor, supported by the central government, had taken over the country. Sir, the governor's role also, I'm sure, is under question now. The way he has acted at the behest of the ruling party, and we expect the ruling party not only to respect the Supreme Court judgment, restore the Congress government forthwith, but also to take appropriate action against the governor.
ठीक है सर, हिंदी में जो है आप बता दें क्या हुआ आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट की संवैधानिक पीठ का फैसला।
आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट के संवैधानिक पीठ ने एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण फैसला दिया है, जिससे सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने महामहिम गवर्नर साहब ने जो मैसेज और जो डायरेक्शंस 9th दिसंबर को इशू किए थे फॉर कन्वीनिंग द असेंबली बाय प्रीपोनिंग द असेंबली, और उसमें जो नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन स्पीकर के अगेंस्ट और गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट पास हुआ था 16 और 17 दिसंबर को, वो सब क्वॉश कर दिया गया है एज वायलेटिव ऑफ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये भी डायरेक्शन दिया है कि द स्टेटस को, जो स्थिति 15 दिसंबर की थी, उसको रिस्टोर किया जाए। 15 दिसंबर को टुकी साहब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे, इसलिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला है कि एक प्रकार से कि टुकी साहब फिर से चीफ मिनिस्टर बनेंगे। इसके आगे ये जजमेंट गवर्नर के कंडक्ट पे एक बहुत बड़ा प्रश्न चिन्ह उठाता है। क्या गवर्नर इस प्रकार से कार्रवाई कर सकते हैं जिसमें कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रोविजंस का बिल्कुल अनदेखी हो, रूल ऑफ लॉ की अनदेखी हो, और ऐसा लगने लगे देश में जैसे कि कोई कानून व्यवस्था ही नहीं है। हमको सुप्रीम कोर्ट के इस फैसले पे गर्व है। हमको अब आज फिर एक दफ़े सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस देश को बताया है कि इंडियन जुडिशरी एक बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग, इंडिपेंडेंट एंड एक रिलायबल इंस्टीट्यूशन है, जो पार्टी पॉलिटिक्स से उठ के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की रक्षक है, और जब भी ऐसा कोई क्राइसिस आता है तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल वॉइस से अपना जजमेंट का जवाब देती है। और जरूर थोड़ा सा विलंब हुआ, जिसके लिए आज कोर्ट ने सॉरी भी बोला, और उसके बाद एक ऐसा ऐतिहासिक फैसला दिया जो इस देश के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल हिस्ट्री के लिए एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी होगा।
उत्तराखंड के बाद ये
विल हैव टू गो टू फ्लोर टेस्ट। वो बात की बात है, पहले उनको रिस्टोर करना पड़ेगा, देन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोसेस है वो फॉलो होगा। थैंक यू।
हाँ सुनिए खनका साहब, एक चीज और है कि उत्तराखंड के बाद ये दूसरा फैसला है जिसमें कि केंद्र सरकार को झटका लग रहा है सुप्रीम कोर्ट से। कैसे
देखिए ये
हमारा इधर कर दो यार,
ये दूसरी बार सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और राष्ट्रपति के थ्रू जो एक्शन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने लिया है अपने गवर्नर्स की पावर्स मिसयूज करके, उसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक प्रकार से डिसअप्रूव किया है। एक प्रकार से हिंदी में हम कह सकते हैं उनके चेहरे में तमाचा है, और कहीं ना कहीं एक पब्लिक के लिए सोचने का वक्त आ गया है कि क्या ये गवर्नमेंट रूल ऑफ लॉ में बिलीव करती है कि नहीं करती है।
ठीक है, अच्छा अब आगे की क्या होगी प्रक्रिया? जैसे ऑर्डर आया अब इसके बाद क्या प्रक्रिया?
देखिए, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर जब आता है तो तुरंत वो क्रियान्वित होता है।
ठीक है।
अब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और गवर्नर का ये एक दायित्व हो जाता है,
मॉरल रिस्पांसिबिलिटी
नहीं, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रिस्पांसिबिलिटी टू इमीडिएटली रोल बैक द सिचुएशन। 15 दिसंबर को जो स्थिति थी उसको रिस्टोर करें। उस दिन तुकी साहब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे, उनको तुरंत चीफ मिनिस्टर बनाया जाए, उसके बाद द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोसेस विल फॉलो।
ठीक है, मित्तल साहब आप आइए, आप भी कुछ बता देना जल्दी से। चलिए।
We just heard Vivek Tanka, who is the lawyer for the Congress Party. The Congress Party has already reacted on India Today, saying it is a victory for the democracy. But it's a big slap on the face of the centre, as well as what Vivek Tanka has said while talking about the verdict, which is restored the Nabam Tuki government in Arunachal Pradesh right now. It's a big setback for the centre because now, according to the verdict by the Apex Court, now we do know that the Nabam Tuki government will be restored. The next up will be the floor test in Arunachal Pradesh. Getting some more reactions, take a listen.
एक मिनट, टिक टैक कर ले जल्दी से, आओ।
All right, we'll try and get you more reactions as they are coming in right now. But we do know that in Arunachal Pradesh now, it is the Congress's Nabam Tuki government which will be restored, is what the court order has said. It has said the governor's order to prepone the assembly session is illegal. The Supreme Court has quashed the order of the governor. So what it essentially means is that they're going back to now December 2015 when it was the Nabam Tuki government in power. Anusha is with us now. Anusha, this is also a major ruling in terms of the legality of the presidential proclamation on declaring state of emergency as well. It has a widespread constitutional impact going ahead.
Well, Divina, clearly this judgment has defined that how the relations between the centre and the state will go forward. How is it that the governor, as the representative of centre, who is supposed to act in a non-partisan way, what are the ways and the methods and the procedures under which he can exercise his powers? What are the limitations of this power? If you go back to the jurisprudence of this country, the 1994 judgment, and even the judgments which have come before, they have severely restricted the power of the central government to issue presidential proclamations. At the same time, they've also said that all restraint must be exercised before a state of emergency can be imposed or an elected government can be suspended. The judgments actually use language of a civil war, that only in case of a civil war you can have, a complete, usurp of the existing government. And without something like that, if you, dethrone an elected government, it is the most unpreferred option, constitutionally speaking. And that's what the Supreme Court has exercised today. It has said that what the governor did was violative of his powers. He should not have done that. And all the powers given to him under the Constitution have checks and balances. The state and the centre relations have been defined today by the Supreme Court and clearly in favor of the state government.
As we have Rahul Kaval in the newsroom as well. Now, Rahul, how are you dissecting this order in a larger gameplay? Because we've seen in Uttarakhand what had happened and now in Arunachal as well.
So there are two things, Devina. First, a big blow to the central government. Make no mistake about it. The state government said that they've given an IB report. The LIU put together a whole report which was ratified by the Home Ministry. So this decision was taken at the highest levels. This is not a decision taken by some officials. The cabinet itself signed off on the decision to impose president's rule. This is a stinging blow to the Modi government, possibly the biggest blow they've had to deal with. Remember, what's at play, as you asked, is very, very significant. The government decided that there was adequate reason to impose president's rule. In the order that's been passed today, the Supreme Court has turned that down. We've been seeing a build-up for the past few months where there's been a series of run-ins between the judiciary and the government. This takes it to a whole different plane. The Modi government today left completely red-faced. What will all those officials from Arunachal Pradesh, the governor's office, the intelligence team that put that report together, the Home Ministry that signed off on that report, the cabinet that took the decision to invoke president's rule, all of them today have absolutely nothing to say because this order is a Supreme Court order. It cannot be challenged. It will be implemented. There is a problem in this for the Congress as well. as well. Remember, Nabam Tuki lost 30 of his MLAs. They merged. Kalikopul became the chief minister, the former number 2 man in the Arunachal government. Will these MLAs now come back? Will they at all be able to prove their majority? The BJP can play that game. Say that we didn't break this government. It's the Congress's own infighting that led to these 24 MLAs walking away, and we had nothing to do with it. That's what they will say when they come on record in a short while. But morally, this is a big blow to the Modi government, possibly the biggest blow they've had to deal with ever since they came to power.
And also looking at the political situation in Arunachal, Rahul, because since December when we'd seen that the special session of this assembly is called, you have a new government in February, and now again we're looking at a floor test for Arunachal Pradesh as well. So in your experience, what is the timeline we're looking at before we see some stability on the ground post this
No, because he will have to go in for a floor test very quickly, and as I pointed out earlier, there is a problem there. He's lost more than 24 of his MLAs, 30 MLAs tied up with Kalikopul. They merged and there's a new government in the state. Will these MLAs come back? That's the point I'm making. The difference between the Harish Rawat situation and the Nabam Tuki situation is that Harish Rawat, with the help of independents and with the help of those who were on the fence wanting to go away, but he was able to bring them back one way or the other, was able to ensure that he had the numbers to win the floor test. Nabam Tuki may not be so lucky, but I don't think that number game is of primary interest here. What is of far greater consequence is the fact that on a moral question of whether the imposition of President's rule was correct, the Supreme Court has delivered this stinging verdict. They've taken many months to do this.
Yes.
As I pointed out earlier, I know senior officials in the government, in the Ministry of Home Affairs, very anxious. You know, what will the judges say? When is this verdict coming out? They've been searching for answers to that question. I know the government at the highest levels has been concerned about what this verdict will be. Now it's come out, and hopefully, you know, in the larger interest of the way India is run, hopefully a message has gone out to the central government today that you can't mess with elected governments. The only way to come to power in any state is to win a democratic mandate. You can't topple these governments. Those days of Ayaram, Gayaram, horse trading, toppling governments, those days, Devina, are over. And that's the message the Supreme Court has sent. Hopefully, now the central government will heed that message.
A shot in the arm for the Congress as well, which is seen in a dwindling camp right now, Rahul, because the Uttarakhand experience, they just managed to save the government by the skin of their teeth. And now in Arunachal as well, it is, let's not forget, the legal verdict which has helped them.
Morally, it's a blow. Morally, it's something that goes to the Congress's advantage. Politically, though, they still have a problem. The problem is it's their MLAs who are walking away.
Okay.
Even if, say, an inducement is being offered by the BJP, if these people are loyal, dedicated, ideologically committed.
And he has said on a very important note what we've been talking about on India Today as well. He has said that we will go back to our 47 MLAs and we will follow the procedure as laid down in the verdict of the court. As the constitutional process suggests, we will take the next step. So next step right now will be a floor test, and a big challenge for the Nabam Tuki government will now be to get his flock together. As Rahul earlier pointed out, that now Nabam Tuki's next challenge is to get the numbers up and to prove its majority on the floor of the House. And also we have Anusha, who's right now with us. Now, Anusha, as this verdict makes it clear that it is the Nabam Tuki government which upholds the legality in the eyes of law. We're looking at Nabam Tuki going back to his MLAs, trying to prove his majority on the floor. What is the next step now that you're hearing from the BJP camp? We'll try and connect with her in just a bit, but these are the latest details that are coming in right now, that Congress's Nabam Tuki to return as the Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh. The Supreme Court has quashed the government's order to remove the Speaker and the Chief Minister Nabam Tuki, the order which will now go back to December 15th, 2015. That's the day when the Speaker had issued notice disqualifying 14 of the 21 Congress MLAs. And that's when now the Congress gets a big shot in the arm. When we spoke to Manish Tiwari of the Congress, we were able to get a reaction from him where he said it's a big victory for the democracy. But now we have to move towards the BJP camp to see what will be their strategy, because now we're also looking at a face-off between the legislature and the judiciary. Because remember, it is the centre which had issued the order. You had the President's proclamation also of the emergency, which will be under scanner now. We have Javed Ansari who's joining us right now. Javed, how are you reading the Supreme Court's major verdict?
Well, it's a huge blow to the government, major embarrassment coming as it does on the reversal that they suffered in the case of Uttarakhand. And the government will now have to be very careful. Not just this government, governments to come in the future. They will be very careful before they think of, dethroning elected governments, pulling down elected state governments. It should also have a very sobering effect on the powers that be, because with power comes responsibility, and it cannot be used indiscriminately. Therefore, and the government will now need to very carefully calibrate the way forward, because you can't have a situation where the apex court has now delivered a judgment, and that judgment is final, and therefore for them to be able to, they can't start to use this to fight the government, the judiciary, because this is a judgment which has been delivered by none other than the apex court of the country.
Well, absolutely, Javed, because earlier we had seen in Uttarakhand as well, there was an attempt to lure in the rebel faction of the Congress, but a big question on the Congress as well. So, because of the infight that we've seen in the Congress's camp, the way they were able to save the Uttarakhand government at the last moment, absolutely after so much speculation, Arunachal was not the case. So now, will Nabam Tuki be able to prove its majority on the floor of the House when the floor test happens next?
Look, the onus is now on Mr. Tuki and the Congress party to get their numbers together. When a government falls because majority support has been withdrawn, is a different case. If it is pulled down, then it's quite different. Now the onus will be on the floor, will be on the government to prove its majority. The floor test is the ultimate test, and if it fails, then Mr. Tuki will not be able to form the government. If he does, then good luck to him.
Well, Javed, be with us on that note, because we do have Priyanka Chaturvedi who's joining us, taking this question directly to the Congress right now. So, Priyanka, we've heard Nabam Tuki come out saying it's a great victory for the democracy. The Congress is certainly elated on this judicial victory. But here is the big question. Do you have numbers in Arunachal now to reinstate the government as and when the floor test happens? Are you ready to get your flock together there?
Now, let's not forget that this is the argument that the Bharatiya Janata Party tried to give for Uttarakhand as well, whether we had the floor test numbers or no, and didn't allow a floor test to happen. The undemocratic behavior and unconstitutional manner in which Bharatiya Janata Party has been working and Modi government has been working by trying to impose their own authority over the democratic process has been clearly, been shut down by the Supreme Court. Having said that, moving ahead, now that we have the Supreme Court verdict and the Supreme Court has taken a decision on this, the floor test would also be a emphatic reminder to the Bharatiya Janata Party, especially that democracy will win and we will have our numbers in place when it comes to the floor test. And this would be another reminder to them to not interfere in elected government and do not allow.
And here also is that even as it is a reminder for the centre, as you're saying, and the Congress is saying that this will set a precedent for the centre, which according to you has been trying to shake the governments in Uttarakhand. We've seen an example. But what about your own party? Are you ready to stem the infighting? Is this also a learning lesson for the Congress as well?
No, every process that happens, or every undemocratic, unconstitutional attitude thrust at the party and elected governments will be fought back. That's point number one. What Supreme Court has done today has emphatically reminded the Bharatiya Janata Party that it cannot interfere in elected government's functioning and have the governor decide what needs to be done and not needs to be done. They have emphatically quashed and set aside the governor's rule in Arunachal Pradesh and what governor did. That's point number one. Now, point number two is about the floor test. Whether we will get the number of, we would have a majority to prove in the floor test. That is something we will ensure happens. If it does not happen, we would allow democracy to prevail. We will not be behaving like how undemocratically and unconstitutionally the Bharatiya Janata Party has been acting time and time again, whether it was in Uttarakhand or it is going to be in Arunachal Pradesh. So there are 2 points here.
Well, Priyanka, the BJP's argument has been that it is your party where the infighting was happening. It was your Congress rebels who had tried to join hands with the BJP. So they never took the step forward. It was your party. It was your mismanagement. It was your chief minister candidate, and perhaps it was also ignorance on the party's high command part, because this entire crisis could have been stemmed from the very beginning.
Now, let me tell you again and repeat this again, because it's the same argument that shame-faced, red-faced, embarrassed Bharatiya Janata Party had given at the time of Uttarakhand crisis. They had spoken about it. They did not allow a floor test to happen. They imposed the president's rule undemocratically, unconstitutionally, till the Supreme Court reminded them to do a floor test. This is the same chain of events happening now, but the governor went out of his reach, to ensure that the elected government was thrown out.
Okay.
Now, having said that, these are mere excuses that the BJP is coming up with, mere defense that the BJP is coming up with, and again, the floor test would be the ultimate decider as to what was happening in. It has.
All right, Priyanka, another very important question now. We see the parliament session is around the corner. So will the Congress party now be raising the Arunachal verdict and the entire issue in the parliament as well?
Certainly raise these undemocratic means that the central government is talking about. On one hand, you have the Prime Minister talking about cooperative federalism, and on the other hand, he's thwarting federal structure in the.
Okay, we'll try and connect with Priyanka again. Priyanka, thanks for joining us for the moment right now. We are getting these visuals from the cabinet, but the cabinet meeting has started at the moment as we speak, and the big agenda would also be the Arunachal crisis that has the major verdict from the apex court, which has also left the BJP red-faced, because we have now this entire verdict with us. We can take you through how the Supreme Court has said that quashing of the assembly, calling off the assembly session by the then governor was illegal. So now here's what the next step is. Let's take you through it step by step. The step one will now be the floor test by the Congress party, and also where the Nabam Tuki government will have to prove its majority. Now step two also is for the BJP to come out and do the damage control on the ground. Step three also will have to see that how this entire crisis pans out for the political scenario for not only Arunachal Pradesh, but also for the other cases that we have seen across the nation as well, and how it sets a precedent for the government now and the centre. We have Anusha still with us. Anusha, take us through what exactly happened in the court, because there was a widespread expectation with the observation that had come in earlier also in this verdict, that how the justice, the five-bench judge had earlier said that this could be a verdict which takes you back in time, and that's exactly what's happened. Okay, Anusha is trying to get us some latest reaction from the ground as well right now, but we are getting the news right now. Cabinet is likely to discuss the Supreme Court order on Arunachal Pradesh. Kashmir unrest also on the agenda, but this is the big story that we're getting you this morning of how there's a big setback for the centre. Anusha is through with us now. Anusha, take us through the crucial verdict as it happened in the apex court, the major highlights for those who are joining us right now, how the Supreme Court five-judge bench, which had earlier said this could be a verdict which could be taking everyone back in time, it's exactly proven to be so.
Divina, clearly, this is a unanimous judgment. It is a five-judge bench which has not given a judgment by majority. All the five judges have agreed that the actions of the governor was illegal. He was wrong in law to prepone the assembly session.
Now we have former Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh, who could be the next Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh as well, Nabam Tuki, who is joining us. Mr. Tuki, it's been a verdict which has given you shot in the arm. When are we likely to see you getting your flock together? What's the number right now that you have of your MLAs that you can go and stake the claim for the government?
I'll go by the judgment of the Supreme Court. It is a historic judgment given by the Supreme Court, and this is select to the BJP government at the center, with the Prime Minister, and it is protection of democracy in the country. So, regarding the majority is concerned, Congress have 47 MLAs in the 60-member House. So if the clock set back, then Congress 47 members will come back. That will decide within the 47 members of the Congress party.
Right now. All right. Also, Mr. Tuki, first of all, we have seen that, you've said it's a victory for the democracy as well. I'll get my managing editor, Rahul Kaval, also with us right now. Rahul, go ahead.
So, Mr. Tuki, I have only one question for you. More than 24 of your MLAs deserted you, which is why there was a crisis in the first place. Do you believe when this floor test is conducted, you will have the majority to be able to actually continue with your government? You've got this order in your favor, but what will happen on the floor of the House and the Assembly?
You see, originally, the people of Arunachal voted to Congress, and 47 out of 60-member House in the assembly, and few of them, because of the instigated by the BJP people, few of them revolted, and that was internal matter. But without two-third majority, they have tried to split the party. And now, if this Supreme Court judgment is set back, then it will come to original place. Then we'll have 47 members in the House of 60. Then within the 47, Congress MLA will decide the future course of action.
You're dodging it. I'm asking you a very straight question, sir. How many of these rebel MLAs are you in touch with? How many of those rebel MLAs do you believe will vote for you when the floor test is conducted in the Arunachal Assembly, sir?
Yeah. All are our Congress MLAs. They are the popularly elected members. People voted them to Congress. So they are Congress members. I am in touch of all maximum our colleagues, MLAs. So we'll decide in the course of time.
No, sir. I'm sorry. I will repeat my question because I'm not satisfied with the answer. More than 24 of your MLAs are no longer with you. They are part of the current government, the government that has now been rejected by the Supreme Court. They are part of that government. How many of these MLAs, Mr. Chief Minister, do you believe will come back to you? They are MLAs who are upset with your performance. They were upset with your style of functioning. That's why they went away, which is what created the crisis in the first place.
It is all allegations. That was all wrong allegations and baseless allegations. The allegations can be made by anything, but that is not the truth. The truth is that Congress has a majority in the 60-member House, and there was a popularly elected government, but that was conspired by these BJP people, and they destabilized my government. Now, Supreme Court, the historic, remarkable judgment revert back the original place. Then they will be automatically become a Congress member. Then among the Congress members will decide this thing in the floor test. Also,
no, so just one second. I'm looking for a headline from what you're saying. Mr. Chief Minister, you're telling our viewers that you are in touch with your rebel MLAs and that you're confident, Mr. Chief Minister, that after this historic Supreme Court verdict, a lot of these MLAs who rebelled will come back to your fold. Is that what you're telling our viewers this morning, sir?
They will be Congress MLA. They will be within the framework of the Congress party. They will be Congress MLA automatically. So within the Congress party, those rebel MLAs will also be discussed among ourselves. Then we'll decide future course of action.
Okay, if Kaliko Pul is watching this, your former number 2 man, your colleague in the ministry for the longest time, what would you like to tell him? Are you going to extend an invitation to Kaliko Pul to come back and join your government, or do you think it's too late for that?
We'll go by the decision of the Supreme Court. Whatever the court decides, we will abide by the decision of the Supreme Court. And regarding the party matter, we will discuss in the party forum at appropriate level. Because I have
okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Nabam Tuki, for joining us in India today. It's very interesting what he says. It's even more interesting, Devina, what he doesn't say. Because he accepts in a way that Kaliko Pul is not coming back. He accepts also that some of these MLAs may not come back. But what he's saying is that he hopes that some of the rebel MLAs, more than 24 MLAs rebelled, some of them he believes will come back to the Congress's fold. And if that happens, his government may survive. Because remember, in a 60-member assembly, he originally had 47. So he can still lose 17 and still be safe. He just needs more than 30. Whether it happens or not, we will still need to see. But Kaliko Pul at this time reasonably confident that on the back of the Supreme Court order, he should be able to sail through.
Well, we also had the reaction, interestingly, Rahul, from Congress MP Ninong Ering, who had said that they will reach out to their friends in the current government. So it goes on to also bolster the fact that now there will be overtures made to the rebel camp from the Congress's side. We have India Today's Rajdeep Sardesai joining us on this big breaking story. Now, Rajdeep Sardesai, this is what right now Nabam Tuki has told India Today, that now they will be looking at the rebel camp and efforts are all on to get them in the fold as well. It's a big breaking news. Your reaction? Rajdeep, if you can hear me, your first
Yes, I
response
can.
on what Nabam Tuki has just told India today, that now they will be reaching out to those who had deserted him in the first place, and it will be the Congress's government which will be formed now in Arunachal Pradesh. Do you believe that it's a task which is it's more difficult and easier said?
Well, it's, that is exactly the problem that he's going to face, because it's not going to be so easy for him to get the MLAs back, even though, of course, after today's verdict, there will be some hope that he will have that many of these MLAs will now once again see the scent of power. The question is quite simply this, that by restoring the government to its position as it was in December of last year, is the Supreme Court creating a situation where politically Nabam Tuki may well be restored, constitutionally he may well be restored, but politically may not have the majority? That's the question that's going to have to be asked. Does he politically have the majority now to be able to sustain this government? It is one thing to have constitutional restoration of your government, courtesy what has been done by the Supreme Court, but can he actually politically ensure that his government is brought back? Does he really have the numbers? Clearly he doesn't at the moment. So he will require some kind of counter defection to take place from the BJP, which may not be so easy. So effectively you may well be heading for a situation where Arunachal eventually will have to go in for a fresh election.
Okay.
There may be no option.
All right, Rajdeep, be with us. We're slipping into a short break, but before we get into a break, I just want to show our viewers, this is the recent reaction that is coming from Arvind Kejriwal, Aam Aadmi Party jumping in, taking a shot at the centre. The Supreme Court judgment, yet another tight slap on the dictatorial Modi government. Hope Modi ji would learn and now stop interfering in democratically elected government. So widespread political repercussion is what we're seeing from the apex court government, from the Congress to the Aam Aadmi Party. More reactions coming in. The BJP is silent for the moment. We do know cabinet meet is on. Arunachal verdict is on the agenda. Stay with us. We come back with more breaking news.